Raw Garden Club. I'm Tiny, and today we're here with Miss Mo, Omniversion, and Sophia in the building. Today we're going to talk a little bit about soil science and your grow zone. So let me just go ahead and get my presentation pulled up. And I did drop these links up here that are on screen now in the chat if anybody wants to get the month-by-month planting guide or figure out what zone you're in. So those links are in the chat. Let me go ahead. So today, like I said, we're going to do some trivia on grow zones and soil, and then just talk a little bit about that. We're going to see if we have any topics for next meeting, take our group picture, and then I'll show you guys how to claim your NFT. So trivia question number 1. The USDA plant hardiness zone map divides the USA into how many different grow zones? And you guys can feel free to either unmute or drop it in the chat. We got A10, B11, C12, or D13. Wish I had some like waiting music to play in the background. Alrighty, I see Sophia said 10, Mo said 12. All right, let's see what we got. So I think they actually did just update it. I'm not 100% sure because I think before they said there were only 12 zones, but the answer is D, 13 from the official USDA website. So there are 13 different zones, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what those mean in a few minutes. So which of the following factors does the USDA plant hardiness zone map primarily considered? Is it average summer temperatures, average annual rainfall, elevation above sea level, or D, average winter temperatures? Welcome, welcome, Exploring Owl. We're back here on the back patio. All right, let's see what we got. Sophia says C. Mo says B, average rainfall. Let's see. It's actually average winter temperatures. And yes, we'll go into that in a few minutes. And then we have some soil trivia. Which soil organism is responsible for breaking down organic matter into nutrient-rich humus? Is it A, earthworms, B, ants, C, ladybugs, or D, bees? A, earthworms. Yes, you guys got that one quick. So yes, it's definitely earthworms. Ladybugs and bees are also helpful in the garden, but not for this reason. Next is, what is the term for the ability of soil to maintain an appropriate balance of air and water for plant roots? Is it A, soil pH, B, soil fertility, C, soil porosity, or D, soil erosion? B, fertility, C, porosity, Let's see. Yep, it is soil porosity. And I think we had one more. Yep. Okay, so this one is, what does the term pH refer to in the context of soil health? A, soil moisture level, B, soil texture, C, soil nutrient content, or D, soil acidity or alkalinity? And I think we learned about this in science, so I think everybody should know this one too. Yes, it's the acidity and alkalinity as shown by that little scale down there on the bottom. So today we're just going to talk about a little bit about what our plants need to survive, and what they need to survive is water, sunlight, CO2, nutrients, and ventilation. And I'm also going to drop the link to the ebook again that I had shown you guys in, I think it was the first or the second meeting. I'm going to give that to everybody for free again, so it'll go over more in detail all of these things. But today we are specifically talking about growing zones and your soil. So a grow zone, what is it? So like I showed you on that map, it's how the USA breaks down the different areas in the country. It's broken down in 10 degree increments, and they range from zone 1 in Alaska, and then zone 13 in Hawaii and Puerto Rico. And so zone 1 is the coldest and zone 13 is the hottest. I think in the lower 48, it's like zone 3 is up in Montana, and down in the Florida Keys, it's like zone 10 or 11. And then those other zones come into play in Hawaii and Puerto Rico. And yes, so use your zone as a guide to determine what grows well in your region and help choose perennial plants that can withstand the winters in your area. So, oh, hold on, let me see. Sorry, I don't know what thing just like glitched. Yeah, so yeah, you can use a greenhouse to extend your growing season if you live in a colder climate. Um, but yeah, so the growing zone helps mostly with determining what grows well in your area and how well they'll do in the winters, if they'll survive or not. And you can see how long your growing season is by calculating your frost date. So you can go to, I put the website here again. I'll drop it in the chat later. It's thealmanac.com. That's where I get mine from. And remember that these are only estimates. So here, mine says that the last spring frost is March 6th. But here I went by my Facebook group, my local Facebook group, and everybody here says to plant after Easter. So this year, I think that was in April, early April. So that's when I decided to plant. So like I said, these are just a guide, but it'll give you like a good idea. So my growing season is 264 days, which is pretty good. Let me see. Sorry, I hadn't checked back in the chat at all. Did anybody have any questions so far, or like any comments? Does everybody know what zone they're in? I know I'm in 8A. Mo in Vegas, I believe you're in 9A or B. Anybody else know theirs? 9B, nice. Ooh. And then, so another note on the growing season length, if you are somebody that lives maybe in like northern New York, like I know Binks does, you can try to find varieties of the vegetables that you like that have earlier maturity. So they mature earlier. So like is a cabbage. This cabbage, the premium late flat Dutch, reaches maturity in 100 days. But maybe if you live up north and your seasons aren't that long, maybe you want to opt for something like the early Jersey Wakefield, which is only 70 days. So knowing your growing season can definitely help decide what kind of things you can grow and if they'll do well in your area. Let me see. Anybody else have any questions about the growing season or what it means or anything like that? Otherwise, I will keep going. Hey, Alice, I see you made it back. If you guys want, if you're able to move, you can walk down the path and come back here to the patio. It's like the raised patio in the back. That's where we're at. All right, so no questions on the growing season or grow zones, I mean. All righty. So next we are going to talk a little bit about soil. Soil is, I'm going to say, is probably one of the most, if not the most important thing when you're growing your plants, because that is your plant's home. So you want to make sure that it's healthy so that your plants can thrive where they're at. And when you have healthy soil, it's going to help your plants absorb the nutrients that they need to be healthy. It's going to help them develop healthier roots. It's going to help them be more resistant to pests since they are stronger. Stronger plants are going to resist pests better. And then it's also going to create an environment for the microorganisms that you need to help keep your soil healthy. So that's like your bacteria, your fungi, and your earthworms that we were talking about earlier. And then next, so yeah, if you ask 10 different gardeners what the perfect soil is, you'll likely get an array of answers. I would say just make sure that it has a lot of organic matter. And overall, your soil should be loose, crumbly, well draining, and have a neutral pH. So that's between 6.5 and 7. And then I just put the blend that I use down there again. So I use the potting soil. It's Kellogg's raised bed potting soil, the Black Cow composted manure, perlite, peat moss, and worm castings is what I use in mine as like a general. I did add like my carrots. I added more sand just to make it a little bit more loose. But overall, that is what I use. Does anybody here want to share what they use? I know we have some actual growers in the house today. So if anybody wants to share what kind of blend you use, what kind of soil blend you use for your plants, please feel free to drop it in the chat or unmute. We would love to hear from you. Yeah, I use the composted cow manure. It has to be like compost. You can't you can't just like grab some shit and like throw it on your garden and think that's gonna work. But yeah. Okay, let me read these things. So Sophia says, I use a soil mix from my local garden store. Omniversion uses black cow compost and perlite. And Sophia's is a half topsoil, half compost. Yes, so you can see overall, compost is one of the biggest things that you want to make sure that you include in your soil mix because it's going to give your plants the nutrients that they need. Omniversion said, my big problem is bugs. I use neem oil and vinegar to fight them. Yes, I've been using neem oil. My peas actually got attacked just recently by the aphids. I think that's how you say it. The little green ones. Yeah, I was so sad to see that. So I like harvested what I could and we ate them. We put them in a chicken and veggie mix that I made last night. But I'm pretty sure that plant is done for. So I think I'm going to give up. But I didn't really have any problem with pests last year. So this year it's making me kind of sad that I had to deal with that. But hopefully we can get it together and yeah, still have some nice harvests. Okay, so this is for if you're trying to plant in your soil, like your native soil that ladybugs eat. I need to get, has anybody here ever like purchased a ladybug? I feel so weird buying ladybugs, but like I know you can. Has anybody ever done that to like help their garden? Before we talk about fixing your native soil. Through the mail. Nice. If you have a link, please drop it, or you can definitely hit me up outside of here. But please send me that because I think I'm gonna have to do that because I really don't want to deal with the pests, and I like to use organic things. I definitely don't use any chemicals, so any kind of natural way I can get these bugs out of here, I would greatly appreciate it. So yeah, this
I
is
want.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Sophia. Yeah, I want to buy some ladybugs, but with my luck and whatnot, they all fly off. So
That's one thinking too. Like, do I want to buy ladybug? Like, it's not like I could keep them. Like, what if they just don't do what I want them to do and they just like fly away?
yeah, pretty much nothing. But I found a praying mantis case, so hopefully they did good last year. Around the garden, and I've got one of them little lizard skin thingies. I don't know what it
Nice,
is because it runs so dang on fast. So yeah, I'm doing pretty good. So if I can keep the wasp out, I'll be doing a lot better.
nice. Yeah, I have a lot of freaking ants this year. Like, there's ants, so many ants in my yard. It's crazy. But I think I got the cayenne pepper to try to sprinkle to see if that helps. I don't know if anybody else does anything else for ants, but there's like it's like an unreal amount of ants that are crawling around. They have whole like hills everywhere in my backyard.
Oh, geez. What I did end up doing last year by accident is made a compost pile when I was cleaning up the yard, and then the ants ended up getting into it, and I was like, well, hell, I can't turn it. And then they ended up taking it down like over halfway, so that might help. It'll keep them in like one spot.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I have like a tumbler, but I think I could definitely do something like in my yard too, just like on the ground. Yeah, maybe I should try that. I'm down for trying anything at this point.
Yeah, I know that's right. So hopefully my oopsie will help somebody.
Right? Well,
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
actually this year they actually moved out, so they're no longer in the pile. So now they're moved to my garden. So that's fine.
Oh no.
So yeah, they're more interested in the wood. I ain't worried about it.
Yeah, I live like out in the country, so I have like so many different things that I'm like trying to fight. I gotta fight bugs. I gotta fight real animals. I gotta fight my kids, like my dog. I'm fighting everything out here. So hopefully we can keep it together and get some good harvests.
I know that's right. Yeah. My husband and I, we just ended up purchasing the property out in the country and whatnot. So that's gonna be interesting because it's woods.
Nice. Yeah, I think I need to invest in some more like fences to put around my stuff because I know for sure I've had like deer eat my stuff. I have like bobcats. I don't know if bobcats actually eat anything, but I've seen them out there, so I gotta be careful. And these squirrels, man, these squirrels are crazy.
Oh my
Unless
God. Yeah, I got a squirrel family out here. If I catch them, And then messed around and planted a pecan tree in my garden. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I pulled it up and put it in its own little pot because I'm growing in containers. Don't you know that thing broke my dang on pot to get the dang on tree out?
Oh
The
wow.
pecan. I was like, are you serious?
Yeah, these animals are out of pocket, man. I did try to
They
do
really are.
some of those mesh nets, like I don't know what they're made out of, but it's kind of like a plastic, I guess. I don't know if it's plastic, but like those mesh nets, and it seemed like it helped a little bit with like the deer and stuff, but the bugs, it definitely didn't help with the bugs. So I still need to figure out something for the bugs.
Well, I'm not sure where you're at, but I'm in North Carolina, so I ended up growing. I went to get some cabbage, but ended up messing around and got some collard greens instead. Don't ask. Yeah, it was just one of them days. So I ended up planting that at the end of my garden, like because I had like a little bit of woods behind the garden, and then like woods on the other side of the street. So the deers would come through there, so they would just eat that. Um, they would just eat off my collard plant and then leave the rest of it alone. So I don't know if that'll help or not. Yeah.
Ooh,
So I just figured, huh?
no, I was saying I was thinking that too because I have like a fence in front of my yard. Like around me is like literally my whole property is just like no, I don't see nothing but trees. So I know they'd be in there, but I'm thinking maybe if I plant on the outside like stuff like sacrificial stuff, then maybe they'll leave me alone.
Yeah,
And
because
I heard,
that's what they did. She came through with her baby the next year and whatnot. So they ate off that same collard green until it went to seed last year.
oh, wow.
So yeah, that actually might help. But yeah, I always try to plant something for like if y'all come through and run it, but I plant around the outer edges because usually they don't go in the middle for some reason around here.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know if it's just our
Yeah,
variety of deer that we have or what.
yeah. I heard that like using I last year I used like bobcat urine. I don't know if it actually
Hmm.
helped, but I don't really see that many. And then, like, if you have like men in your household, my mom was saying have them like pee, pee outside because it's supposed to help keep the bigger ones away if they smell that urine from like a predator. So I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
that'll help too.
yeah, but that'll also attract bobcats too. Do you have like a male dog or somebody got like a big male dog?
I have a puppy. I just got like a male puppy.
Oh, well, yeah, his it might not be strong enough, but then again, it might be like the first morning pee and whatnot. If he doesn't run free, have him pee around the outside of your yard because I know groundhogs and deers they don't like that at all, and rabbits will stay away too, and
Yeah.
snakes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely try that.
So yeah,
Alrighty. So did anybody else have any other thing to add about those crazy pests? Otherwise, we'll talk about improving your native soil. Alrighty then. So yes, so for people that want to plant in the ground, sometimes you'll see that your soil is too sandy, which is a problem I have in one part of my yard. So to fix it, you can use a lot of compost, which is like you've seen throughout our conversation today. Compost is definitely something you want to be using in your garden. You can also use peat moss and then clay-based amendments to help improve the texture and the fertility of that sandy soil. Because as you can see from the picture, that is not really something that is going to grow healthy plants. And then if your if your soil is too clay-like, which I know they have a problem with over in like the Atlanta area and the Georgia area, you can try again more lots of compost. You can put sand and perlite or gypsum, which kind of breaks down those clay lumps. So those are a few things that you can try. Does anybody here have any issues with their soil, their native soil? I know, like I said, in one part of my yard, it's like too sandy. And then I don't really have too much clay, I guess, but it is like harder. It's not like that red clay like Georgia has, but
yeah, I've got like really rough soil too. It's not quite as clay-like as Georgia, but it is definitely red dirt. So and it's just really hard. So I've taken it to growing in containers. So because I got tired of buying soil, you know what I'm saying, soil and mixing it in every year. I'm trying to get the ground as healthy as I can. So I don't like turning it every year, tilling it. So I just kind of like grow in containers. But it's working though, because I think I started like 3 years ago. And the soil is actually now I can dig in a little bit, at least a foot down. So,
Nice. So I have
but
a
if you
question actually. Oh, go ahead.
mm-hmm. Oh, I was about to
I was
say,
gonna say,
yeah, you go ahead.
no, sorry, you can go ahead.
They also say like if you got like really hard soil and whatnot, you want to break it up, do like root vegetables like rutabagas, beets, stuff like that. And it'll naturally daikon radish. They said is a good one because it grows so big. It'll naturally break up the soil as it grows.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say, I actually just started well, I called myself starting an in-ground bed in my backyard, like in a spot that was all grassy. So I tilled it up or whatever. But then I was reading afterwards that you're not supposed to plant in it the first year. But I do have stuff in there. I have like 10 corns growing right now, but there's like weeds and stuff like all around it. I got to go in there and like try to pull it up. But do you have like any tips for that? Am I supposed to wait a year? Should I try? I have like 2 watermelons and about 10 corns growing right now, but like the weeds are crazy. And I know the soil is probably not the best. All I did was mix in some of that black cow and the perlite and stuff. Not the perlite, the worm castings that I was talking about. But
Mm.
yeah, I don't know really what to do with it at this point.
Um, I mean, I've never heard that. I mean, that might be something I've never heard that, but I would think, I mean, I always go kind of like back to the Bible off of certain things. They say, don't till it for like, you know what I'm saying, and then rest it 7 years. But that's the only thing that I've heard. You're supposed to rest once every 7 years. But that's the only thing I heard about like planting. But yeah, no, I tore mines up and I planted and everything grew like crazy. The watermelon, the melon vine should help keep out the sun from getting down and that'll help with weed control too.
Okay, nice.
So
So yeah, I'll definitely.
yeah, anything that's vine, cucumber squash, if it grows on the vine along the ground and whatnot, that's supposed to help keep the weeds down because the sun can't penetrate the thick leaves.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so I'll definitely keep that going and give y'all some updates on how it's looking. My corn is looking like all right. I wouldn't say it doesn't look like unhealthy, but I don't know if it looks like the most healthy. And then my watermelon is like it's like in a little seed stage. It still got them 2 little leaves with the first real one coming out. So I'll definitely give y'all some updates on how that's going.
Sweet.
All right. What was next? Oh, and then so now I just got 2 videos. So one is about bag gardening products. I really like this video. I found it a little while ago. He actually like buys a bunch of different stuff and breaks it open, so you can see like when you go into the store all them different brands and stuff. He breaks them down and opens them up and shows you actually what is in the bag, and then he teaches you how to make your own potting mix. And then we have a soil science video. So let me get this started. Does anybody have any questions or comments in the meantime while I get this pulled up?
Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today's video is all about the bag soil products you find at Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, etc. Please watch the whole video because it will save you money and it's going to give you some understanding of what all the different named products are, why you would want to spend money on something and maybe not spend money on something else. It gets very confusing. Now, each year I kind of vary how I make my own container mix. I will link a video there. Don't get stuck on the ratios, just follow the principles. All right, so the first thing that I did is I simplified the video for this year. Last year I had topsoil and other products in there. We really don't use those for the garden. So when you walk into any of your big box stores, you're going to see, let's clear this off, garden soil for in-ground use only. That's $6.97 a bag. You can also find right next to it, garden soil. It says vegetables and herbs. Forget that. That's just a selling point. $8.97. These are the same size bags. So already they're trying to get you to spend $2 more for something that looks basically the same. This is the garden soil out of that bag. This is the garden soil out of this bag. Why spend $2 more? Now, it's garden soil. And all the bags always say, do not, well, it doesn't say that. It says use in-ground only, which what they're saying is don't use it in containers. It's not a container mix. It's not a potting mix. I found this. This is dry quartz. So there's a little bit more in here. This is 50 dry quartz, 55 liters. Liters is a good comparison. This is 42 liters there. So 55 liters, $7.99, dry mix. It's got some wood chips, shredded wood in there, and peat moss. Peat moss is going to be key. Keep that in mind. So planting soil, guarding soil, same price. Found this at Costco, $7.99. That's a pretty good price if you're going to pay for bagged soil products. Now, we come over here. This is really good compost according to Nature Care, which is also Miracle Grow. That's $4.97. That's actually not a bad price for compost if you're not making your own. This is what it looks like. And to be honest with you, they don't look much different. And this one says made with compost. So why couldn't you mix in, half a bag with this, with those two? You still have some left over, and you get the point. You're starting to save money. You can get the basic bag stuff and start mixing in your own amendments. That's compost. This is leaf grow. This is not offered everywhere. This is in Maryland. I mean, I think municipal centers make this, sell it in Maryland. It's basically leaves and other organic matter, really broken down well. So you could take some of this, mix it with the garden soil. You're starting to make not only a great soil for your garden beds, but you're beginning to make a container mix or a potting mix that's really inexpensive. Because when we come over here, that's a potting mix. That is 50 dry quartz too, 55 liters, $14.47. If you're trying to fill your containers with a potting mix or a container mix, this is where they get you. You end up spending a fortune. This is what it looks like right out of the bag. It's dry, it's light, and it works really well. If you've got the money and this is what you want to use, nothing wrong with it. They throw in some perlite, maybe some vermiculite. You can buy those too. You can buy, I think, a 20-quart bag of vermiculite and 20-quart bag of perlite. Throw in a couple handfuls, it ends up looking like this, but you don't need it. Potting mix. Now, what is this? This kind of looks like that, without the little bits of perlite. This is just plain old peat moss. This is all that's really added, starting down there with the garden soil. They add in more peat moss, more peat moss, more peat moss, and they work their way down till they have a really nice looking potting mix or container mix. While they're doing that, they may throw in some compost, they'll throw in organic fertilizers, they'll throw in different kinds of microbiology. Just don't get fooled by that. You can just throw in handfuls of granular fertilizer yourself that you get on sale. You can throw in some dirt, earth, soil from your yard. That will put in microbiology into your container. So this is peat moss. $10.97 from Home Depot. I just bought it. Finely milled, retains water, loosens up soil. This is what you want in your potting mix or your container mix. It just makes for a great base for containers, pots, raised beds, if you want to use them in raised beds. I'm going to be filling more of those root pouches that I sell at my seed shop for a series I'm doing. Rather than paying $14.47 for bags of potting mix to fill them up, I'll make my own. How do I do it? Now, don't follow this exactly. I will link a video. It probably varies a little bit from this, but basically what you're doing, and you could do this if you have a yard, you could take 50% of your yard soil, mix it with 50% peat moss, and makes a great base for you to add to it. But let's just say you can't do that. So what I recommend is finding the cheapest bag of garden soil and pick yourself up a 3 cubic foot bale of dried compressed peat moss for $10.97. This goes a long way. And basically, I don't know why I always say basically over and over again, essentially, you take 50% garden soil, and peat moss, and you would mix it together. That makes a really nice base. You could add in a little more garden soil if you think it maybe looks too loose or something. Depending on the different product that you buy, it'll vary, but start 50-50. You have something that looks like that. You take your 50-50 mix and you have a big pile. And again, 50-50 means if I use a little shot glass, it's 1 part peat moss, 1 part garden soil, 1 shot glass full of peat moss, 1 shot full of garden soil, and I get a little bit like this. If I want to do 50-50, you can eyeball it, or you can use 5 gallons of the garden soil, 5-gallon bucket of the peat moss, and you get the point. So that makes a nice 50-50 mix. Then you could throw in, of what you have left, maybe 25% compost into that mix. And you're starting to build a really nice potting mix in container soil for your raised beds or your containers. If you have leaf grow available, you could throw some leaf grow in there, and you get the idea. By using the peat moss, you could swap that out for a cocoa core. They essentially provide the same thing. Cocoa core is a little bit more expensive. Use a combination of both. You can start with the cheaper garden soil, add in peat moss, cocoa core, combination of the two, make the mix, add in your compost, add in some leaf grow, and then you end up with, again, a potting mix that's going to really support your plants. Throw in your granular fertilizers, any other amendments you want to. You saved yourself a lot of money by doing it this way. Hope that makes sense. I think it's really important to know what you're buying. So just to recap, when you go in, you're going to see bags that say garden soil, planting soil. Sometimes it'll say raised bed soil. That's all essentially the same base. And then sometimes they'll try and trick you and it'll be garden soil, $6.97 there. And then it says vegetable and herbs, a little thing that says compost, a little drip of water that says it holds water. Peat moss will hold all the water you need. You don't need any other additives put into there. So already you can just buy that, save yourself $2 a bag. So for every 4 bags of the garden soil you buy, you end up getting a free bag, essentially. Now, that compost, $4.97 is not bad. If you don't have your own, that's worth throwing in there. You could throw in some manures, as long as the manures are fully broken down, or you can throw in some of the leaf grow. Anytime you see bagged manure, you want to make sure you trust the company you're buying from and that manure is fully broken down. You don't want manure thrown into these mixes where it's not fully broken down, because as it breaks down from soil biology, it's going to pull nitrogen from the soil, which will deplete it from your plants. You can get around that by giving them water-soluble nitrogen in the form of fish emulsion or something like that. So you got your garden soils. You got your basic peat moss. Buy the peat moss, throw it into the garden soil. Then you're getting into making your own version of a container mix, of a potting mix, and that's how you end up saving money. So you're not paying $14.47 for something you can make probably at 50% less. That was hard to say. 50% less, which is good. You can also save even more money is maybe use a bag of garden soil, some of your own earth, then mix that in with the peat moss, and you get the idea. Thanks for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. Don't get overwhelmed with all the different packaged soil products you see at the big box stores. Learn just educate yourself a little bit on what you're buying, and when you go there, look for garden soil, pick whatever brand is on sale or cheaper, grab some peat moss, start making your own. Thanks again for watching.
Yeah, so this video is what I saw that inspired me this year to try to do my own mix, because last year I was just buying the soil just in bags and just using it like that. So yeah, this video definitely inspired me. I got the bale of the peat moss. I got a bag of just perlite to mix in, and then my worm castings that I made my own mix with. So yeah, does anybody have any comments about this video? I really like this video, how he broke it down, all the bags that you always see when you go into Lowe's. Otherwise, let me get the next one going. The next one is a video I found yesterday about soil science.
In gardening, our attention is often focused on the plants. Are they healthy, green, and lush? Are they growing in the right place? Are they producing flowers or fruits or vegetables like we want them to? However, when it comes down to it, much of what a plant needs, and especially the things that are in our control as gardeners, depend on having healthy soils. This section will describe some of the different properties of soil that affect plant growth so you can start to understand your soils and improve them. Soil is a medium for plant growth, which means that as a gardener, you'll be spending a lot of time with the soil. Now, notice that I didn't say dirt. Soil is a living ecosystem that provides most of the resources you'll need to grow plants. Dirt, however, is soil that's out of place. Dirt is what you wash from your clothes or sweep off the floor or dig out from under your fingernails. So we'll talk about soil. Soils provide many important functions, including providing anchorage to hold plants in place, holding water, which also conveys nutrients and sugars to the plant, holding air, which allows roots to breathe, and buffering changes in the environment from things like salts, contaminants, and other changes. Plants need water, air, and nutrients to grow, and we can get all these things from the soil. The physical properties of soil are the result of millions of years of geological history. The soils in your garden were rock at some point in the distant past, and that parent material still has a strong influence on your soil today. There are things you can do to improve your garden soils, but only so much. The most basic characteristics of your soil are hard to change. Soil texture is related to the size of the soil particle. Sands are the largest particle. You can see a grain of sand and feel it between your fingers. Silt is a medium-sized particle, and clay particles are tiny. Clay particles are so small you can't feel any grains. Clays just feel smooth when you rub them between your fingers. This figure is not to scale. A silt particle can be up to 25 times bigger than a clay particle, and a sand particle can be 1,000 times larger than a clay particle. The size of the soil particle determines a lot. The mix of particle sizes present in your soils will determine how well your soil can drain excess water and how well it can hold on to nutrients. Soils are called loams if they have a mix of these three parts, sand, silt, and clay. And these soils can be some of the best for growing plants because they take advantage of the different characteristics of each particle size. Besides the soil particles, your soil will hopefully contain organic matter as well. Organic matter is decomposing material from plants and organisms, as well as some live microorganisms. Compost, when it's finished, is basically all organic matter. This type of organic matter that's entirely decomposed and has a nice crumbly texture to it is also called humus. Organic matter is extremely beneficial to soils. It helps improve soils in ways that are good for plant growth. Adding organic matter to your soil is pretty much always a good thing to do. Your soil will have a unique combination of sand, silt, clay, and organic matter that will influence many other soil properties. Structure refers to whether a soil clumps together. Ideally, soils are a little clumpy and crumbly. If you have a really sandy soil with no organic matter, the soil won't have any structure. Imagine picking up a handful of beach sand and letting the individual grains sift between your fingers. There's no structure. On the other end of the spectrum, a really clayey soil can be a lot like modeling clay or clay for pottery. Everything sticks together into one dense ball. That's not good for plant growth either. An ideal soil isn't just soil particles. It also contains organic matter, water, and air, all of which are necessary for plant growth. An ideal soil is going to have good structure so that it can contain the air and water needed for plant growth in the spaces or pores between the individual particles. Not only do very sandy soils have poor structure, but the large grains mean that there are big spaces between the individual particles. These pores contain a lot of air, and when it rains, the water drains away quickly. A loamy soil contains a mix of particle sizes, so that some water can drain, but some water will get stuck in the smaller pores and help keep the soil moist. In a soil that has a lot of clay, the pores between the particles are absolutely tiny. They're so tiny that it's hard for water to move in the soil. Plant roots also have trouble growing in clays because they are so dense. The texture of your soil and the amount of organic matter that's in it can affect the amount of nutrients that a soil will have. Smaller particles will have more surface area, so clay and humus particles, remember, humus is fully decomposed organic matter, can hold on to a much larger number of elements. There are many challenges in gardening in soils with too much clay, but soils that have some clay or organic matter are going to be able to provide more nutrients to plants. This is a major reason why adding compost or increasing the organic matter in your soil will improve the productivity of your plants. While particle size influences nutrients some, an even bigger factor that determines the amount and type of nutrients in your soil is based on the parent material of that soil. Soil is basically weathered rock, and different types of rock contain different elements. One common example of this is limestone rock. Soils that come from weathered limestone will tend to have a lot of calcium. Another important soil property is pH, which is a measure of soil acidity. A pH of 7 is neutral, a pH below 7 is acid, and a pH above 7 is alkaline. Soil pH is an important chemical property because it affects the availability of nutrients to plants and the activity of microorganisms in the soil. If soils are too acidic or too alkaline, the chemistry of the soil changes and certain nutrients may not be available to plants, even if they are in the soil, because they're tied up with other chemicals. Generally, a moderate or neutral pH soil is going to have the greatest availability of all the major plant nutrients. While many plants can tolerate ranges of pH between 5.2 and 7.8, most plants grow best in mineral soils when the pH is between 6 and 7, which is slightly acid to neutral. This general rule applies to most of the commonly grown fruits, vegetables, flowers, trees, and shrubs. But there are some exceptions, such as blueberries, azaleas, and rhododendrons, which are acid-loving plants that require conditions with low pHs between 4.5 and 5.2. Perhaps you're thinking, I have no idea what my soil pH is. That's okay, because you can have your soil tested. Soils have many biological properties which are often overlooked. Soils have a ton of microorganisms inside them that help to break down plant materials and make good organic matter. If you didn't have these organisms in your soil, old plant material would never decompose and you couldn't make compost. Even worse, your plants would struggle to grow because they rely on fungi and other life in the soil to make nutrients available for plant growth. Plants rely on organisms in the soil to provide nutrients, just like how you rely on microorganisms in your digestive system to break down your food and provide you with everything that your body needs. There's a wide variety of soil organisms in the soil, including bacteria, protozoa, fungi, mycorrhizae, invertebrates such as insects, snails, and earthworms, and vertebrates such as moles, toads, chipmunks, and other critters.
Yeah, so I really like this video mainly because, hold on, let me see. I like how she did the visuals. Where's that one? This one right here. Yeah, this made it like very clear for me, like why the different soils work the way that they do. Because I know earlier we talked about you know, having sandy soil or clay like soil, but why don't they work well is what is okay. Yeah, sorry guys, my baby's a little upset in the background. He's hungry. But yeah, I really like this video because it's just the different ways that she visually broke down how those soils work, and it made it like very clear for me. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Does anybody have any comments about the video? Alrighty then. And then I guess if anybody wants to share any garden updates, anything that's going well in your garden or not so well right now, feel free to unmute. Maybe we can help each other out. And then, yeah, we'll wrap it up. We'll take our picture down by the statue and we'll get you guys your NFTs and we'll head out. Alrighty, if nobody wants to share, then let's head down here by our Mother Nature statue.